Bless you. Okay. Okay. All right, welcome everyone to the Doing Business with the City of Chicago workshop. What I will be discussing today are going to be the basics of what we do as a city, meaning the City of Chicago, because you know there are other municipalities. You got Cook County, you have Public Building Commission, they have their procurement process, they have CTA, they have their procurement process. This is all what we do as a city, how contracts are awarded, the process that we go through, okay? So hopefully there'll be something today that you can gather, or you can grab and say this will set you on your way for your journey of to bid a project or be participating on a project, okay? So with that being said, the first one we're going to talk about is our mission statement. Then what we're going to do is talk about the laws that governs the procurement process, the types of procurement, certification, and contract manager compliance, which I believe some of you were in those set classes just before this one, the programs and bid incentives, navigating our DPS website, then we'll have a question and answer period. Okay. Now the mission statement, this was developed by, we received input from staff members roughly maybe even 10 years ago, where we put together what is it that we do. So, and this is what we came up with. So it states that we are the contracting authority for the procurement of goods and services for the city of Chicago, and we pledge to work together as a team and with our customers to guarantee an open, fair, and timely process by establishing, communicating, and enforcing superior business practices. And integrity, public trust, and the law are our guiding principles. So this is what we follow. This is what we try to establish on any contract that we try to award with the city. Okay. We are governed by certain ordinances, and these are the two main ordinances that are passed by the City Council. The City Council, which meets, the second floor, these are the two that we're governed by: the Municipal Purchasing Act and the Chapter 2-92 of the Municipal Code of Chicago. So this is what governs what we do as an governing body, those two right there. All right, the types of procurements. You have small orders, and I'm going to talk about each one of those. You have competitive bids. You have requests for proposals, RFPs, requests for qualifications, RFQ, and job order contracts. Small order competitive bids are pretty much open to everyone. Requests for proposals and qualifications are professional services type of agreements. So there is some type of professional knowledge in terms of architectural engineering, psychiatry, doctors. That's where those will fall. Job order contracting is under the construction realm, so just so you know that. All right, so let me talk about small orders. So small orders, they do not have to be advertised, and it mentioned everything under $100,000 is considered a small order. So that could be for paper, it could be for the tiles on the floor, it could be for clothing, it could be for computers. We've had some for air conditioners. Small orders, anything that falls under $100,000. So if you was to bid a small order bid, if your bid is $100,000 and $1, it will be rejected because it has to be under $100,000. We also have a portion of that $100,000 bids under $10,000 too. So if the solicitation goes down the street for $10,000 and under, we ask for compliance plans to be required for those bids. So we believe that environment, a lot more vendors are capable of providing. So that's why we ask for all MBWB compliance, and I believe everyone knows what MBWB is, right? Okay, so, all right. So these quotes can be solicited by telephone, fax, or a written quotation delivered here to the bid and bond room on a selected day. So when it's advertising, we don't advertise per se like in the Sun-Times. We will post it on our website. And we'll, how do we look at that? We'll talk about that later on. It gets posted on our website. And we invite all City of Chicago firms are solicited first. So we want to make sure that they have the opportunity to bid these as well. All right? So that's small orders. Like I said, that can be anything, any type of good. But the bids, this is for everything over $100,000. So what does that mean? That could be commodities, work services, vehicles and heavy equipment. Bids will fall into this category. And when we say it's a competitive bid, that means it is advertised in the Sun-Times. And we advertise Monday through Friday, okay? And it's also posted on our website. So the actual solicitation will be posted on our website. And you can also come here in room 103 to pick up the actual bid document. You can pick it up right here. And planned deposits may be required for some bids, but those are usually on construction bids, all right? For competitive bids, a pre-bid might be included. What is a pre-bid? Pre-bid is much like what we're doing right here. This allows everyone to hear an opportunity about the bid. You can ask questions. It's a back and forth type of a situation about the bid, but usually we have the user department as a part of that pre-bid, and they go over the scope of work. They'll let you know what is entailed. They usually even have a site inspection of the site as well too, so that's important, so you understand exactly what you're going to be getting involved with, okay? And this is, like I said, it's a good question and answer period, and you also have a question and answer cutoff period too, so if you have any questions, we have a cutoff date of our time, what time we want all questions in after that pre-bid. All right. As I mentioned here, that it could be, like I said, it's site inspection, but bidders are encouraged to review the specs and contract prior to the actual pre-bid. So make sure you've downloaded. We don't want you to come in the day of the pre-bid and not even know what they're talking about. I want you to know this is what you're going to be hopefully bidding for this. All right. All right. For the bid documents, for all bid documents that are on a street, there are documents that must be completed by you as a vendor. So if you all were the vending community that's going to bid this, there are certain documents that you must be able to complete in order to make a successful bid document that you're going to turn in on the date of the closing date of that bid. What are those documents? You have a bid execution page. But let me make sure we're talking about, you want to sign and execute the documents, you want to notarize all the documents that are requested, and it mentions that if you do not provide the document, your bid could be rejected. So that's very important. And you don't want your bid rejected just because of something silly like not filling out a bid execution page or something like that. So, like I say, the bid submittal, it may conclude any bid deposit in the form of proper form, and cash is not accepted. And like I mentioned, the bid deposit is usually on a construction project, and the bid deposit is usually 5% of their bid, of your bid. A bid fee, which is also non-refundable, may be required for some bids as well. And we mentioned you have that in bold. There's a reason why we have that in bold. All bids are due at 11 o'clock a.m. on the bid submittal due date. Okay. If it was I mentioned something earlier about professional services, those are due at 4 o'clock p.m. on the selected date. So just so you're aware of that. All right. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, bid openings are Monday through Friday, except the major holidays is at 11 o'clock a.m. It's here in City Hall, room 103, in this room right here. Bids are open and read aloud. Bids are tabulated, and bids are reviewed for accuracy and completeness. And then once they are tabulated, then you can go online and review. So you don't necessarily have to come in to view the bid opening. You can actually go online and see the results of that bid. All right. All right. All right. I want to also just backtrack one section too. Like I said, with those bid documents we talked about, go back one more. Those documents, if you are unsure about what you need to do, you can always call the procurement specialist on the record for this. So with every bid, there is a specialist that you can call, and they'll help you walk you through whatever documents that they have with their bid. Okay. All right. This middle. All right. So we're going to talk about the award process. All right. So what happens in the award process? What happens is once the bid is returned to the specialist, They then, like I said, they review it for accuracy, and then we will receive a recommendation of award from the user department. User department is the one who actually is the one you're going to be contracting with. So procurement is more just the placekeeper, more to say. They will work with, say, Department of Transportation for a bid. Department of Transportation, once this bid is awarded, you in essence will be working for the Department of Transportation. So that's why we get the recommendation of award from that department. And once we get all that, the bids are packaged. What does that mean? We put together everything in some type of a form of all the documents from the bid, and then we've got it has to go through 3 signatures. It got to go to our comptroller, which is our payment body. Then it goes to our chief procurement officer for signature, and then it goes to the mayor. So those 3 signatures are required as a part of your bid. And that's what it says. It's routed through the signature approval process. Now, it mentions about a performance and payment bond. That's usually on a construction project, all right, because they want to make sure that the bond will secure the project until completion, all right. And then insurance and funding agency concurrence for award. So insurance, of course, you always want to have insurance on any project to make sure that you have general liability, automobile, and workers' comp. So that's on all projects. And then contracts are awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Now, what does responsive mean? So if we ask you for your insurance document and it takes you 2 weeks to get it to us, that's not being responsive. So we need it right away so we can continue the process for award. What does responsible mean, though? Responsible means that your ability to do the work, that you're able to mobilize, that you're able to go to the site and begin work. So if you got awarded the contract and on day 1, they ask you to be at a certain site and you don't show up. Those are things we ask about being responsible. And so we have the right to terminate a contract if you're not responsible for the work that you're going to be performing. Okay? All right. All right, so the next process, and I mentioned earlier, this is more a professional service type of agreement. And this is a method used to implement a new project requiring professional services. And it's used when the city doesn't have in-house technical experts. So say, and I'll use CDOT again, if CDOT doesn't have someone on their architectural team, they'll go out and do an RFP for somebody to do the work for them, and then we'll just pay them to do that work. Now, RFP also defines the objectives and scope, so we always want to scope. You want to scope on any project, actually. You don't want, even on small orders, everything has a scope. But it doesn't detail every aspect of implementing the project. And why is that? Because we want your input as well. So we give the basics of what we want, and then it's you as a consultant to kind of tell us how you would do that job. It requires a detailed evaluations of the proposal by an evaluation committee. So what does that mean? So when it's a professional service, that means that we need a committee assigned by transportation, usually 3 members, and those 3 members would meet to discuss your proposal. And usually for proposal, we can get to 20 to 30 proposals. So they go through all 20 of those proposals, and they sit together as a committee and evaluate those. They give scores. So this is different than a bid. It's because we do not award to the lowest price right there. Low price is not the only factor. We want to know who your team is. We want to know their availability. We want to know your funding and whether you are able to mobilize on any project. So we look at your financials. You got any legal actions against you? We want to know all that. This is all a part of the RFP process. And also, this is also the same process for a request for qualifications. So a request for qualification is a little bit different than an RFP, but because we don't want pricing on RFQ. RFQ, we just want the most qualified, and what we use that for is an architectural and engineering project. So what happens for this is we look for a high degree of technical expertise. So like I said, architecture engineering, we want surveyors, we want electrical engineers, we want those for bridges who can design bridges. That's why we use it for architecture engineering. And what we use for this is we will pre-qualify a pool. So we will have, say for instance, for designing other bridges in the city of Chicago, we would get maybe 80 proposals, not proposals, we'll get submittals, 80 submittals in for that. And then from that, we will assess a pool. So we will get maybe 20 vendors that will provide that services for the city of Chicago, and then it goes through an evaluation selection process, which I mentioned earlier about the committee. They'll go through that whole process. And like I said, for A&E RFQs, there is no cost proposal. That happens on the later side of things. That means once we have established a pool and we've identified, and then say we want Lakeshore Drive Bridge over Lakeshore Drive, we'll go to that pool. At that point, those 20 that were pre-qualified would submit to us their team that they would have design it. They would submit to us the MBEWBE plan that they're going to utilize, and then we would also want the pricing. At that point, that's when we want the pricing from those 20 vendors of how you're going to implement that project. Okay? All right. And I said that's mostly for A&E design contracts. Okay, go ahead.
So the pool.
Mm-hmm.
So you said 80 submittals,
Mm-hmm.
guys, and you select 20 out of that?
Well, that's not a select number. I just threw out a number. But
Oh, okay.
no. I just threw out a number.
Right.
It could be 5. They could select 1, or they could select none.
Okay, so how do they determine which pre-qualifies qualifies?
Well, back to the, okay, no. So when we go out on the street for that RFQ, we'll have all the submittal requirements where we put the scope in there. You must put in that you have certain members of your team and what their expertise is, their availability. We ask for your legal action, we ask for finance. So you as a company is going to provide all that. We can tell right away if you've done that work. You have to show it, and then we ask for what we call an executive summary, which please describe your understanding of the scope and what you've done in the past in relation to the scope. Okay. That's how we get to that's the first thing that the evaluation committee will read. What have you done to show that you're qualified to do this type of work? You can't just say, oh, I worked at Burger King and I could design this bridge. No, you have to really show that you have the team and you have the expertise to provide this type of service. Okay? All right. So now, job order contracts, and we have an entire seminar just on that alone, because this itself is a construction-based type of process. So it's the job order contracts. We have it at aviation. We have it at, they utilize it at aviation, I should say. Fleet and facility management, Department of Transportation. And it's for like the electrical work. When like I say, when the in-house crews are overloaded, JOC is a method that they can utilize to fulfill this opportunity. Like I say, and it works pretty much the same way as an RFQ, but like I say, this is construction related. And it's a method used to solicit qualifications from companies who possess, let's say, the same thing, of a high degree of technical expertise in the type of work that's being solicited. And if anybody is interested in it, they have one that's going to be coming out in January for fleet and facility management. So if that's something that interests you, say you're in construction, that may be an opportunity for you to look at that. And as you see right there, it's method to use to accomplish small to medium-sized projects. So like I said, I mentioned something about doing electricals, doing anything that the city crews cannot handle. JOC is an opportunity for departments to utilize. Okay? All right. So how do they award it? It's a little bit different. It's not awarded by a dollar value. It's awarded by the most favorable adjustment factor. And I'm not in depth about that. As I say, this is more of the basics. If you're really interested in that, they do have a seminar that really discusses and opens up how do we get into that factor, because the factor is how they determine who their low bidder is. Okay. All right. So we've talked or talked about all the bidding aspects. Now this talks more about the certification. I don't know if anyone was here for the certification, but now we have 6 certifications now, where we have 5 maybe 2 months ago. We now have 6 now. Of course, we have the MBWB, which has been around for the longest. But now we have also a BEPD, the DBE, ACDBE, which is more airport concession, and now we have the veteran-owned business enterprise, VBE. So if you really want to more in-depth on that, we have the workshop at 2 o'clock every Wednesday that really goes in depth into if you're interested in getting certified in those areas. But they ask for you to be at least 51% owned and controlled by a minority, women, veteran, or other disadvantaged individual. And under that program, under the BEPD is the same thing. You must be at least 51%. And how do they get to 51? They want to make sure that you don't say 49. That means 51% of the work is going to be going to somebody else. They want to make sure that vendor is doing the majority of the work. And 51, of course, is that number. Okay. All right. Now, contract monitoring and compliance. That is more when the contract gets awarded. The day it gets awarded, I mentioned to you about responsibility. You start on the first day of the work. Contract monitoring and compliance is if you had MBEs or WBEs or VBEs or BCDBE on your contract, you have to then start the payment to your vendors once they start work, of course. If they go out and do any type of work, say you have a concrete contract, and you have subs that do the framing, and they did some framing for you, you have to make sure you start that payment to that vendor. And we offer opportunity in our, we call it the C2 system, and we monitor that. We monitor all contracts that have subcontracting opportunities, so that everybody understands that. We mentioned something about Chicago Residency Ordinance. That's also called CRO. A contract must be over $100,000 and funded by the city of Chicago for that to be enacted. All right. And 50% of the total work hour must be performed by actual residents of the city of Chicago. We have the equal employment opportunity, and also on all city-funded construction projects. And the award criteria determination, that's how we award to the lowest bidder. And that must be inserted to all bid specs. And the bidders are invited to propose the minority female employee utilization goals for those. All right. So how do you achieve compliance? As I mentioned, I go back to the concrete. In our bid spec, like I said, if you see something that you're interested in, you can achieve it if you are MW or DBE, or you're joint venturing with another MBE, WBE, or DBE. Or you can subcontract a portion of the work to one or more MW or DBEs. Or you can do it by supply, purchasing the materials that are used in the performance of the contract from one or more MWBEs. But if you purchase materials, you do not get the full 100%. You only get 60% credit, just so you understand that. Because there's not really a useful function. You're just getting, say, the wood from a company. They're not doing anything in terms of labor involved. So that's why we reduce it to 60%. Okay? Now, reporting requirements. Primes are responsible for submitting, as I mentioned earlier, I did the concrete example. You want to give monthly subcontract payment forms or payment certification form, look like it's two separate things. Weekly certified payrolls and waivers of lien. So these are all the reporting requirements that we need from the prime to provide in order to make sure that they are staying on top of showing payments to their subcontractors. All right, so now let's talk about the programs and bid incentives. All right, we have programs for small business initiatives, so that's in construction. We have the diversity credit program, and we have a mentor protege program. All right, and then for bid incentives, we have a small business enterprise. We have the veteran-owned business enterprise. We have the business enterprises owned by people with disabilities. We have the city-based manufacturers, city-based businesses, apprentice utilization, and alternatively powered vehicles. So these bid incentives can be utilized in your particular bid. Meaning you can say, okay, I have an alternatively hybrid vehicle, so you can maybe get, if your company has 3 or 4 of those vehicles in your fleet, you can utilize that and check it off, and you'll get a 2% reduction off your bid to make you lower than everybody else. That's where that comes in at. That's what any of those bid incentives mean. You can be any of those 6 or 7 of those, from small enterprise all the way down to alternative. And if you meet any of those, like city-based business. If you live within the city of Chicago, that's 2% right there because your business is located in the city of Chicago. Now also, if you're also a city-based manufacturer, you also can get 2% lower. So you can keep accumulating these 2%. And if the low bidder was 100,000, next bidder was 101,000, that 101,000 bidder could become the low bidder by those bid incentives. So it's important to know that, and this is in all of our specs. So any spec that you pick up today or you look online, you'll see all of these bid incentives, and that's what they mean. Okay. All right. So now we're going to talk about the DPS website. So these are all the various type of avenues that you can go if you want to look up, say, awarded contracts. Say, for instance, like I said, I keep y'all use the concrete again. You want to see what are the past concrete awards that were out there. You can go out there and just put in concrete, and I'm going to show you how we do that. You put in concrete, it's going to show you all the past contracts for contracts. And we'll show all payments. So if now you're a subcontractor on somebody's contract, you can go in there and see the payments. You can see bid tabs, meaning you can see where you fell in terms of all the bids for a particular day. You can see all our bid opportunities. You can search our WBE directory, the bid incentives, regulations, and then of our. So this is all the stuff that is on our website. All right, so this is the page where you would go to begin that search. You want to start here, and as it says, I want to search for. So on the left side, it tells you what is it that you really want to do, okay? So I want to look for the contracts and awards. So I want to look up, like I say, concrete. You can choose. So if you know the vendor's name, you can find all the contracts that were through Walsh, because I said concrete, Walsh. You put the vendor's name in and hit search. Every contract that was awarded to Walsh maybe in the last 10 years should show up. And if you get really specific, I want to see the one that they was just awarded. You can put the PO number, or you can do it by department. You can look by CDOT for transportation, or you can look by water management, or if you know the spec, or if you know, I want to put in 0 to 10 million. So you have a lot of different search engines that you can use on this page. So once you hit search, this is what comes up. Now that little sign means this is an Adobe. 4848 is the actual contract. It shows who it was awarded to, shows you the amount, shows the name of the project. So then once you do that, you can open it up and you can see that contract. You'll see every vendor, you'll see the subcontractors in the contract. You'll see how that contract was executed. So this is important too if you want to know, if you had any questions about how to execute a contract, this is one that was actually awarded. So you know that all the documents were executed correctly. So this is one that you want to, this is something that you want to pay attention to and how you want to just look at that. All right. So this was modifications. So the first contract, the one at the top, is the actual contract. What do these ones all below it mean? This is money added or taken to from the contract. So modifications mean what? Say, for instance, they said we're only going to do 10 feet of concrete on this contract. And then 2 years from now, you know what? It's now 12 feet. That's a modification. And that's what all those 10 are there for. That's saying that there was modification. One of them was a deduction. Then you have some that was additions. So that's what those show. And it tells you the year those was awarded, and it goes through that. So this is very important for you to understand how that works. All right. Now, what about contract payment? Like I said, if you was a subcontractor on a particular contract, you want to know, hold it, when was a vendor paid or was we paid? Put your vendor name in, put the payment date, and hit search. This is, like I say, very useful. Also, like I say, we have a system called C2, which also monitors this as well. So for the certification, those who are interested in certification compliance, make sure you come back for that workshop, and they'll talk a little bit more on how that happens. All right? And then we mentioned about a bid tabulation. Say, for instance, you guys, all 6 of you bid a contract, and you want to know, you're always bidding the same contract. You want to see where everything fell in terms of, was I number 1, was I number 3, or well, I was way out the ballpark. This is called bid tabulations. As long as you know the spec number, and that's the number 1 key. As long as you know the spec number, that is the key, what drives the search engine for this. I mean, you put a vendor name in, but it's not going to break out all the vendors that brought you. You're just going to see that one vendor. But if you knew today's date and it was 3 bids today, and you put in 11/29/2017, it was 3 bids, it's going to show you all 3 bids, and you'll be able to see how everyone responded and the dollar values for everybody's bid. So that's what bid tabulation is. Okay, so this is kind of what Rodney spoke about earlier. This is we are a very transparent agency. We post everything out there, everything, bid advertisement, who we are, upcoming workshops. DPS, if you have that page, which is also a part of all the documents that's out there, this will help you be able to navigate our site and be able to know what's coming up. We got our buying plan out there that's also telling you what we buy. I mean, we just had dog food on it. I mean, so if you can provide dog food, dog and cat food. We got a paper contract coming up. Like I say, if you do construction, we got a number of construction. That's always ongoing. So a lot of opportunities out there, and the buying plan will speak to that. And like I said, we're so transparent. We want to make sure if there's anything that you are interested in, you can always go look at all the contracts that we've awarded on our website. So with that being said, we can open it up for any questions that you guys may have. Anyone? I know I already took care of yours. Right. Okay. What you have?
It's like, let's say, the prime.
The prime? Mm-hmm.
Right. And I want to be a subcontractor.
You want to be, okay.
Like a mentor. The prime is a mentor.
The mentor protege. Mentor protege. Yes.
How do you go by that? To the prime.
Well, that's why I was mentioning about that pre-bid. How you get to that prime is like you sitting here today. When they have those pre-bids, and those are posted on our website, they give you the date and time. Come in here with your business cards and tell them, hey, and they're going to be sitting here just like you sitting here, and that's your opportunity now to talk to them, and that's your time to negotiate and talk to them. And
Okay.
yeah.
That's like, say, construction.
Mm-hmm. And that's mainly the.
Say, a final cleaner, rough cleaner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In the business of rough cleaning, then doing a final cleaning.
Okay.
So I should come to the construction.
Oh man, and all constructions there is all pre-bids for construction. Like work services and vehicle have come, they don't have pre-bid. For every construction project you find in there, there's a pre-bid.
Okay.
So that's your opportunity. Oh, this meets my requirement. This meets what I do.
Right.
That's your opportunity. Bring your cards, and that's when you start. And they see you, and they say, oh, you would take them on as a mentor protege. I mean, and then they get credit off of their bid by bringing you on and bringing you along. And then eventually what that happens is then you're able to then start as your own firm to do what they do. So that's how that works. That's why they mean mentor protege. They want to bring you along so then eventually you can then do what they do. Okay? All right.
Thanks.
Yes.
Can I piggyback off that? You would use this bid tabulation site to do what you were saying, to figure out when the pre-bid.
Oh, no. Bid tabulation is after the fact. We have what we call the bid opportunities. There's a document out there that shows everything's from today, all the bid opportunities coming probably in the next month, all up to January. So what you'll see is all the construction bids or work commodities or work services. You'll see all the bids, and if you see pre-bid, that's the one that's what I do or I'm interested in doing. That's the one you'll go out and invite yourself to sit there 11 o'clock, usually 1 o'clock, and make sure you mingle with all those businesses. Oh, so here it is. This is the bid. Yeah, I'll give you that. Like I said, but these are available. Everything's out here for you guys to make sure you know what's upcoming. But this is more what's happening. There's another one, the forecast. And what we do is, as an agency, we ask for all the sister agencies to provide what their upcoming bids, not just the city of Chicago. So you're going to know what CHA is doing. You're going to know what Public Building Commission is doing. You're going to know what CTA is doing. You're going to know what all those agencies are doing, so you can go to theirs as well. Because PBC has all the schools and police departments and fire departments, and they have pre-bids for all theirs as well. So you want to make sure you do all this networking, make sure that you be a part of that process. Okay? Anybody else? Yes. The responsible party, yes. That's the prime. That's called general contractor in the construction world. Prime more so for just a regular bid, more like a work services or commodity. We also call them the vendor, but yeah, they're the one responsible that must take on at least 51% of any kind of work that's out there. So, yeah. All right. Yes.
For the pre-bid, are you able to be qualified without a RFQ?
Okay. Say it one more time.
So, as an example, I represent Carlisle Brake Friction. We make manufactured brakes.
Okay.
And usually there's always a qualifying process.
Always. Yes.
So, without there being some formal solicitation out there stating
Oh, yeah.
for another vendor, is there another way?
No, that's what I said. You have to wait for that type of solicitation to come on the street, and you say, oh, that's what we do. And they're going to ask for, like I say, now, like I say, it could be a bid process, or it could be a professional solicitation, meaning that we just want vendors who can give us some know-how on how to do it, and you provide the services. But like I say, you got to wait for that scope to hit the street, and then you want to be pre-qualified. And we can select one vendor. It don't have to be a pool. Like I said, that's RFQ, a pool. But RFP, we can select one vendor, yeah, to do those services, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Anyone else? All right. Well, if no other questions, I thank you all for coming, and hopefully I answered all the questions. Like I said, this was more basics, so this gives you at least a head start to get you started to doing whatever you want to do, and hope you do, your journey a lot easier today. All right. Thank you. All right. All right.